after a really good festival summer, we embarked on our first ever Asian tour, which would take us through China and Hong Kong for 10 shows in September and October 2011.
Ausländische Bands waren früher, vor ein paar Jahren zumindest mal ganz selten, dass die nach China kommen. Seit ungefähr 2004 haben wir, also Painkiller, angefangen, Metal-Bands, gerade europäische und amerikanische Metal-Bands nach China zu bringen. Mittlerweile hat sich alles sehr schnell entwickelt. Jetzt gibt es wieder Bands, die anfangen, jetzt komplett in China eine richtige Tour zu machen, wie zum Beispiel The Ocean.
When we first set up that tour in China, I was expecting to tour in a completely chaotic, messy, authoritarian country where we would be basically traveling on horse carts and playing on old Soviet gear, taking 25-hour train rides among chicken and eating things like bugs and goat penis, which they do actually eat in China. But other than that, none of these things were true, really.
Promoting bands in China is pretty different from Europe because with some bands you have to start from zero. For The Ocean, for example, was really difficult because they quite know in Europe playing big festivals and stuff, but in China, before getting them here, I think not a lot of people knew the band, so I have to use like all sorts of different kinds of media because Facebook is blocked here, there's no Twitter, no anything. I make a website for them, translate everything in Chinese.
I got the same experience about this censorship thing, you know, especially you can't say anything against the major policy issued by the central government in China.
The Chinese government still follows the old communist ideal of, like, you know, religion being bad, basically, you know, opium for the people, as Mark said. And so, like, we didn't really get into trouble with them because, like, our lyrics are mostly critical of religion, and I guess they were fine with it. I mean, we sent them a couple of lyrics to songs of our last two records, and Jeff turned it in and translated them into Chinese, I think, and it was all fine. But he also told me that he kind of like translated it very freely and like in a way that would favor the way they wanted to be translated. So I was like, well, fair enough. We played a large variety of different places. We played huge open-air festivals with like 30,000 people, and then the next day we would play a bar show with basically 150 people in a really tiny jam-packed bar place with a stage that was no wider than 3 meters. And the gear we used in the venues was usually up to date. It was Western brands in decent condition and shape.
C'est ça la surprise, alors ça fait partie des trucs que j'attendais pas du tout, c'est-à-dire qu'il y a des gens compétents avec du vrai matos, pas tout le temps.
Pas tout le temps, c'est clair.
Mais je veux dire, c'est pas pire que de tourner en Italie, par exemple.
Non. Tu vas te faire des amis en Italie.
Ouais, c'est pas grave, c'est quand même rigolo d'aller en Italie. Et puis sinon, après tout le reste, les clubs, ta routine journalière, c'est exactement la même chose. Voilà. Soundcheck, repas, concert, bière.
And surprisingly, like, Beijing and Shanghai were the most boring shows somehow. I mean, that's the most Western cities in a way, you know, like in terms of having like a real metal scene. But that brings with it all the negative aspects. You know, people there are just a bit spoiled because they get lots of shows, and it's not as exciting as playing some of the more rural places. In Shenzhen, we even played a tea house. That was a quite interesting experience. Like, it wasn't really set up for metal shows or anything like that.
And I was like, I don't know, it's first of all, it's holidays, it's not a weekend date, so maybe there are like 50 people, but at the end the place was pretty packed, so like for me it was much better than I expected.
People started dancing and going crazy, and I think a lot of these people, they had never seen anything like that before. That was probably their first metal show ever. You have to understand that Shenzhen is a huge city. It's like 15 million people. It's only been existing for like 20 years. They basically just built it up from scratch 20 years ago. And in the city with like 14, 15 million people, there is one venue, plus the tea house. So that shows you that the whole scene there is just really young. Everything is still in the process of growing and developing, and in a lot of cities you don't have shows because you simply don't have any places to do shows. That's what makes it exciting to tour there, because everything is young and fresh and people are hungry. They're really hungry for music, especially for Western music from Europe or the US.
Wo die Rockszene noch nicht so entwickelt ist, sind sie natürlich sehr heiß drauf, dass solche professionelle, gute Bands und auch international angesehene Bands mal in ihrer Stadt spielen.
They have these funny like motions of dancing, and like people stand next to one another, like maybe 10, 15 people in one long line, just really like this, and then they raise each other like this, and then they bang their heads. It's awesome. It was so funny to see. Like, always males, you know? With like 10, 15 males next to one another lined up, and then they just do them kissing the floor, mosh wall, everyone called it. It was fucking hilarious.
Ah, il y avait toujours ce truc bizarre après les concerts où ils applaudissent 5 minutes, puis après ils s'attendent à ce qu'ils reviennent sur scène, mais ils applaudissent pas, ils restent juste plantés devant la scène, quoi.
They won't ask for an encore, but they won't leave either. Yeah. They will just stay there and wait. You stuck your head just out of the door, and as soon as they saw the week, they were like,
do you want one more song? I said, do you want one more song?
Moi je m'attendais quand même à trouver des groupes de Chinois qui font de la musique un petit peu particulière, quoi, avec un espèce de caractère un peu différent. Ça ressemblait quand même vaguement à des mauvais groupes européens, quoi.
C'est ça. Après, ils ont tous les groupes qu'on ouvert pour nous, c'était quand même majoritairement des groupes qui étaient des copies de trucs européens ou américains qui sont déjà des copies d'autres trucs. Et puis que nous, on a 200 000 groupes.
Also mit dem chinesischen Rock hat es ungefähr Ende 80er, Anfang 90er angefangen, aber die richtige Underground-Szene hat sich erst seit dem Jahr 2000 ungefähr gebildet, und irgendwann 2005 hat sich so die Szene ein bisschen mehr gesplittert und es gibt auch mehr Metal-Bands.
They were kind of mainly influenced by the American new metal style, and a lot of fans were following that, buying like albums from Korn, Limp Bizkit. I mean, back to the 70s, 60s, 70s, we got in the UK we got Lost Generation, and in America we got the Beaten Generation, and they had rock music for some social and political reasons.
that is completely lacking here.
Yeah, completely lacking here, and also the people are kind of very used to follow the government's order or follow the government's policy. First priority is to raise a family and earn your salary.
Je pense que c'est leur éducation et tout ça, ils sont beaucoup plus cool, plus de respect.
C'est vraiment le clash culturel comme jamais je l'ai vécu, quoi. Je pensais qu'être allé aux États-Unis c'était un clash culturel.
Bah non.
Bah non, vraiment pas, quoi.
One of the main differences between touring China and touring Europe is that distances in China between the cities that you're going to play are so large that you have to take flights or trains. Nobody's touring China by van or a sleeper bus or something like that. And if we were traveling by plane, it would mean that we had to check in everything, and of course we were always overweight, but fortunately they usually didn't care. We had racks weighing up to 40 kilograms and they would just accept them, so we didn't have any trouble with that. But still, it's a pain in the ass to always carry all that gear to the airport in a taxi. Usually we had to take 2 or 3 taxis to get there because we were 6 people and get all this gear, and it's these small, like, Chinese cars that don't really fit much stuff. That was really difficult, and the whole situation with trains was even more precarious because those train stations are just so immensely huge. You have no idea. Like, the smallest Chinese train station I've seen was still like 5 times as big as any station I've ever seen in Europe. And that means that sometimes you will arrive in train wagon number 257, and the exit to the platform is basically on the other side. And there's no trolleys, no luggage carts or anything like that. So we just had to carry these amps, and every 50 meters we would stop because we were just completely exhausted. Sometimes that took like half an hour just to get out of the train station. That was pretty crazy. Yesterday we played Hong Kong for the very first time ever, and in the last song Loic asked everyone to come up on stage again, as we had already done the night before in Guangzhou, and then we started playing City in the Sea and hell broke loose. Hong Kong was different in every regard, like a much more like agitated kind of audience, you know, the kind of audience that really wants to get slapped in the face, and they ask for you to hit you with their guitar, and they're happy when they bleed. And in China it was more like, really polite and very modest somehow, you know. More,
but then yesterday there's a lot of European guy, a lot of German guy.
Yeah, those silly Germans traveling all the way to the end of the world to get away from them, and then you have people chanting "Wir fahren nach Berlin."
There's too many Germans here. You travel to the other end of the world, you know, like expecting to get away from those Germans, but it never works out. They're always there, even in fucking Hong Kong.
Guys, ultimativ die beste Show in Hong Kong aller Zeiten. And I've been waiting for this band to turn up in Hong Kong for 2 fucking years. I've lived here forever, and we're dying for fucking metal here, man. We're dying for it.
Je prie le ciel entier qu'il y ait encore des soirées comme ça et continue à venir, c'était de ouf.
I never see all the people go on the station crazy. All the nights crazy. You're fucking awesome.
Yeah, they just gain a new fan. They just have all the sludge metal, progressive metal all together, and the best part of it, and the ocean is the shit. Just check it out.
Move here. Fuck no.
Why?
Not me. I go crazy in a place like this. Seriously, I mean, if you're just trying to cross the street, it takes you like 15 minutes because you just can't move. It's like you're in this permanent stream of people, and it's like I've really never seen so many people in one place.
No,
New York is like a fucking village against this town. Obviously, when you have so many people in one place, there's a great risk of like outbreak of diseases or viruses being transmitted. I mean, imagine what happens if like some weird fucked up virus from Africa, like Ebola or something, comes to the city. You know, in a matter of 10 hours or 24 hours, it's just gonna kill hundreds of thousands of people. And that's why people here are so obsessed with cleanliness. You know, you see lots of people wearing these like masks or whatever, and yeah, like in all the buildings, you know, like all the buttons for the elevators are being sterilized every hour, you know, just to get rid of viruses or whatever that may linger there. We played 2 open-air festivals, and that was really interesting to see how that works in China. The first one we played was called Strawberry Festival, and it was a pretty big open-air. I think it's the biggest festival site I've ever seen. It could have held probably about 250,000 people, but there were about 30,000 out there. So it was a good crowd. We played in the late afternoon, and you had everything from scene kids to this old grandfather wearing like a suit and tie, just completely out of place, you know. You're like, what is this guy doing here?
A lot of people, like what you said, what you described, you know, people with suits and ties, grandpa, you know, and grandchildren, they were just curious.
Let's not be mistaken about it. These open-air festivals, there were maybe like 20 to 30 people that had ever heard of our band before. The remaining 28,970 people, they didn't have a clue what the ocean is. People were camping out in front of the main stage. There was no like separate camping area as you have at most European open-air festivals. People would just put up their tents anywhere, like right in front of the main stage, 20 meters. You'd have like a family camping out there. And then these people like meditating, you know, and just like sitting there not moving while some rock band was playing in the back. The second festival we played was near Beijing, and it was called Modern Sky Festival. We played there with Mogwai headlining. That was amazing. I really liked that band. One of my probably most important musical influences, so it was great to share the stage with them. And the setting was just incredible. It was really right underneath the Great Wall in a little valley. If you just looked up the valley, you could see the watchtowers up there. And it was this strange kind of hazy day. So you could just see like the outlines of it, and then we played at 5:30 in the afternoon when the sun was about to set, and it was this orange light and just really sublime atmosphere. It was quite amazing.
It's great to be here playing underneath the fucking Great Wall of China. It's fucking amazing. I know that must be normal for you guys, you know, because people who live by the beach, they never go to the beach, but for us it's something really special. It's fucking awesome to be out here. Thank you.
Chinesische Festivals gab es schon vor 10 Jahren. Richtig professionell entwickelt ist es erst seit 2007 ungefähr. Und die Entwicklung ist auch sehr schnell. In Peking und Shanghai zum Beispiel gibt es jedes Jahr ungefähr 10 Festivals. Und insgesamt China schätze ich mal pro Jahr so 200 bis 300, und diese Zahl ist am Steigen.
Je pensais pas du tout ça de la Chine. J'avais vraiment une autre vision de la Chine avant d'y aller, quoi.
Ouais.
C'était plus... je pensais que c'était vachement restrictif comme pays.
Ouais, alors que pas du tout, quoi.
Qu'il allait avoir plein de flics et puis de militaires partout, ce qui n'est pas du tout le cas.
You don't really get into that like mode where you're like, oh fuck, they're watching me, you know? You don't see that. I mean, people were selling weed in the streets in Wuhan, and just outside of the venue, people were selling weed. I was like, fuck, you know? I thought if you get caught with drugs here, they're just gonna they're gonna kill you.
Yeah,
you know?
severe punishment. Yeah.
Il y a quelques moments où on les voit en fait, et puis c'est toujours dans des endroits un peu, je pense, des endroits touristiques aussi.
Nobody gives you shit for buying a drink and drinking in the streets, you know, or you can buy a drink at 6 in the morning and sit on the curb and drink. It's fucking awesome. It's really not that kind of like 1984 style place, you know. That's the impression we sometimes get from Western media, that it's such a highly authoritative government, which it is, and there's a whole lot of shit happening in this country too.
And also during during the showtime festival time, sometimes the local police will send some people in the enforcement to supervise the show and see if there's something too bad or against the Chinese government was going on, that kind of thing. So still restricted.
Ouais, dans les festivals, il y avait plus de police, en fait, sécurité en général.
就是以前那些音乐节有没有出过了什么大的问题，还是一直特别顺利，是吗？没有，特别顺利，是吗？很热闹的，很正常。对，然后你们偶尔就是基地也可以去看一下演出嘛，还是？对，可以。
我主要是管理一下，就是维持一下会场秩序。
就是会场秩序。
会场。
你们买演出了，我们就得去比赛。我们就是防止人啊，会激动啊，或者呢。
Those cops didn't really know how to react when Loic went into the crowd. Like they thought he was, I don't know what they thought, but they just went after him and basically threw him back towards the stage.
Bah moi j'ai pas vu ça quoi, je n'ai que entendu parler quoi.
Putain, ils m'ont vraiment pris comme ça, foutu par terre. J'étais là, wow, je vais finir en tôle après le concert. Ça va être génial.
Alors moi je me réjouissais déjà d'aller le chercher en prison quoi. Loïc en prison, filer des carreaux.
In the end, they were just confused. They were like, what is this? This is not supposed to happen. The singer is supposed to be on stage.
OK， 谢了，高了，谢谢你们。下一会儿 Thank you very much。
好，老魏，你们有激情。
La bouffe quoi.
La bouffe, putain.
Oh là là.
This tour was probably the best tour we've ever done in terms of food.
99% of the people that came to China, they absolutely adored the food.
The way it works is that Jeff would take us to a restaurant after the show usually, and he would order everything for us. Because we didn't have a clue, none of us speaks a word of Chinese.
From the first day on, they said, keep it coming, more of this, more of that.
Ces plats super épicés avec du brocoli, des super tofu, des putains de haricots, des champignons sataniques. Ouais, je m'attendais à peut-être avoir quelques mauvaises réactions à la nourriture et puis pas du tout, donc mon corps a bien assimilé tous les ingrédients chinois que j'ai ingurgités.
Everything is crispy and tasty and doesn't compare at all to the Chinese food you get in Europe.
And the most cool thing, I think it's a really nice thing in China, is that everybody eats together.
The concept is that everyone shares, which is really cool. Like, you don't order your dish and then you stick with it, you know? You have like 10, 15 dishes sometimes to choose from, and you eat what you like and just take it straight off the plate into your little bowl. And then in the end, you get the bill and it's gonna be like $20 for 8 people or something like that. It's just crazy cheap. Chongqing is the town of hot pot. It's basically a huge boiling pot filled with a ridiculous amount of chilies, and then you get like different veggies or meat or whatever you want to eat, and you throw it in and boil it in this hot chili like broth. And then everyone was sweating his ass off. And we had the least spicy version.
Yeah.
And it was the spiciest fucking food I've ever had. They just throw all the leftovers on the floor. Then the whole floor just looks like a sanitary landfill, basically. Everything's just full of trash and like rats, foods, and oh yeah, fuck, that was a rat. Big rats. Yeah, that was scary. There was a huge rat running through the room, and we actually chased it in the kitchen, and we tried to film it. And I'm not sure if you can see it on the pictures because it was so quick, but it was like hiding behind two pots and like running back and forth. This sounds actually quite disgusting, but it was not.
But at the end, yeah, the food was really good.
Yeah. But it's a war zone.
Et puis heureusement il y avait ce bon Jeff. Qu'est-ce qu'il est fort lui. Heureusement qu'il était là.
Alors Jeff c'est vraiment le gars le plus incroyable que j'ai jamais rencontré, non?
Ouais, il est vraiment parmi le top 3 des gens incroyables.
Alors ce gars...
Franchement c'est une rencontre humaine émotionnelle.
He did a fucking amazing job booking this tour for us, organizing everything, organizing all the travels, ordering food for us. We would have been completely clueless without him. And troubleshooting everywhere. He was basically a booking agent, a tour manager, a stage manager, a merch person, everything in one person.
I think we didn't have like a show with less than 100 people, so for a band that nobody knew before, it's pretty impressive. So for me, mission successful.
And we basically went out to drink every single night with him after the show, and he was usually the last man standing.
You guys are amazing people, great band, great live band, so I really wish you guys all the best, and I hope you guys can make it back to China, and I will be there like for lots of ganbays.
Awesome, Jeff.